yet.
Right before the index.
Right before what?
The index.
Okay, right before the index.
It's not the old creed, it's the new creed.
Mm-hmm. I can't get this pages. I got it.
There you go.
All right,
You wanna lead it?
sure. Okay, everybody else who got it before me. We are not alone. We live in God's world. We believe in God, who has created and is creating, who has come in Jesus, the Word made flesh, to reconcile and make new, who works in us and others by the Spirit. We trust in God. We are called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to love and serve others, to seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus, crucified and risen, our judge and our hope, in life, in death, in life beyond death. God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God.
Call the roll. Do we have a quorum here? Sure looks like it.
Yeah,
No?
we only need
We only need
7.
7, yeah, I counted 7.
Okay,
More than enough.
we got plenty.
And we have to approve the agenda. Vote on it.
Anybody have any changes to the agenda? Okay, we need somebody
We
to
put a, put it to vote to approve the agenda for today.
we need somebody to.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Here.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna look at the minutes of 2021. Anybody have any questions about the minutes of 2021? 2022. But we have to approve.
I'd
it.
like to clarify something.
There's something.
It's confusing
Well,
when, like at the beginning here, we say today is the 2022 annual meeting, and it's 2023. We're talking about last year. I don't know if that's the correct way to do it, but that's the way we've been doing it for the last few years. So then when you
Yeah,
go
they
to the
have a-
minutes, you're looking at the minutes that were last February, but it was for the year 2021. Everybody understand that?
That's like a company that has a, you
I've
gotta
never been
have,
in a big company that did that, so I don't know. But
well,
it's
when
always
you
a
do-
little bit confusing.
When you do your taxes, they're all for the first year.
Good example.
Yeah, we're doing our 22 taxes today.
Yes.
Mhm.
I move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The financial business. The all three.
Something else, no, right? Just because we have papers in front of me.
Not because I like to talk in front of people, believe me. I usually start with a lot of thanks because I don't do this alone. Geraldine is our office administrator. She is also a bookkeeper for another company. And she probably knows more about this than I do. So so she does a lot of this work. Thanks to all of you people, and those that aren't even here, for being very generous people. I think when we get through some of the finances, if you haven't looked already, it looks actually pretty good. And that's because so many people are generous. If you want to start, page by page, there's a few pages here. And I always start, we don't pick people out, what everybody gave in offering, but if you look, we break it down into different dollar amounts. And you'll see that we have a couple extra donor units this year than a year ago. And we have more numbers in higher categories, so people have increased their giving. The bad news might be below that. The Green Wealth Management, our investment fund, anybody that's got stocks knows this last year, 2022, was not good. So we did lose a lot. All I can say is, remember a year ago, I was up here talking about all the money we made the year before. So things kind of balance out. On the way to church every Sunday, we listen to WCCO, financial news. They always say, stay the course, because over the long term, stocks always make more. So we're hoping. The mission report, again, we have a lot of people that.
I have a question.
Oh,
Change on the, green wealth, it should be 2022 ending balance. I missed that.
Say that again?
Where is it again?
On the first page that we were talking about, the green, wealth management, the ending balance.
Oh, the ending balance,
should be
yes.
22 versus
You're right.
21.
I see that now.
I didn't hear them. No.
The ending
22.
balance
Is it
on
correct?
Green Wealth Management sheet says 2021, but it's
Oh, it's
2022.
December.
And the opening should have been 21 then?
Yeah.
No, the opening balance,
Oh, okay.
January 1st to December 31st, 22. Just goes to show we're not perfect. In the missions, you can look at the breakdown. Again, I think important thing here, total-wise, we gave about the same amount as a year ago. We try as a council to figure out where's the best place to give in our mission dollars and with people that are generously giving. So I don't know if anything necessarily needs to be said more about that. I would just add one little thing in that we have already in 2023, last month, gave $2,500 to James and Teamwork Africa for a well, so we're stepping up.
There is I'm saying it's a mistake. Under local missions, it says the $150 that we gave to the cemetery of Mount Olive should not be a mission, that should have been a bill.
That was for gravel.
That-
right?
Yeah, because
But
we paid half of they
it
put new
wasn't-
gravel down in the cemetery and it wasn't a mission, we gave it that
It
was a
actually
bill.
was, because they did not send us a bill, we wouldn't have had to pay anything, they didn't
Yeah, they
require us
did.
to pay us anything. They said what it cost, and if we wanted to contribute towards it, we could. So we didn't put it in as a billing. Anybody have an issue with that? I think it was an executive decision. I think profit and loss, balance sheet, and then the third sheet, which I think is, the main guts of what we're talking about today, is it probably shouldn't be called necessarily profit and loss budget versus actual. It should probably be called a budget sheet, because in the last column, it shows what, as a council, we budgeted for the year 2023 coming forward. But it also shows you what we budgeted in the year before and what our actual was for 2022. So it's a good sheet to look at to see everything. Pointing out a few things, if you look, we had budgeted in 2022 thinking we were gonna get $60,000 in giving. You know, that would be our income. And we thought at the time we were kind of stretching it a little bit. And you can see we actually took in $64,477. Again, thanks to everybody that gave generously. Our major expenses are really the staffing, organist, secretary, and pastor. If you skip all the way to the end and see where we came out, we were budgeting $60,250 in expenses. We had $64,179. If you go back to the front page, the maintenance of $4,681. That's basically the replacing of a furnace. We didn't budget, oh, this year we're gonna have to replace a furnace, so going forward, we might have to consider that. In the year 2023, we did not budget for another furnace. We have 3 furnaces, and 2 are maybe needing replacing at some time in the future, but it's not something we think we need to necessarily budget for. Anything else particular? Under dues and subscriptions on the back, page 62,500, you remember UCC, we have mission, 5 for 5 mission giving, but we have chosen to put the UCC per capita and the UCC, our church's wider mission, instead of missions as in the budget, because we choose at the beginning of the year, we're gonna give $1,000, we know that. It's not based on what people choose to give, or it's not a mission. And the per capita, I'll point out, I'll take blame for that. We somehow missed giving it was $350 budgeted, and it should have been given. We're gonna make it up here now in this year. I don't know how I missed that, but that would be something to be added. I think, if you look at this, the council did an awfully good job of budgeting last year to come that close, and with the one big expense. So if you go now and look on how we budgeted 2023, we're trying to be again as cautious and good with our money as we can. We came up with a total of $64,175 in expenses that we're budgeting for, and we're hoping to increase our income to $65,000 to cover that. So all I can ask is continue your generous giving as much as you can. We have an older church. Things are going to break, but we are so lucky in some of the people that we have here. I'd particularly point out Mike Galvin for getting rid of all our snow. We can't thank you enough. I mean, that is just amazing. And he chooses, like a few others, to not charge us for that. As Al Becker and Dave Reeder, for all the work they do around this church. And that brings me to a couple things that we didn't budget for already this year. Al spent a bunch of hours last week replacing the water softener because Culligan decided to end the program we were on where they delivered salt. They had a tank here and they came once a month or however often they came and switched out this tank. they decided that, oh, we can't do that anymore, so you have to purchase a new system. Hal looked into that, it was like over $2,000, and he said, baloney, I can do that. And he did it for much less, like $600 for a softener, and he, again, graciously gave all his labor, and it was not easy. I'll take anybody into that back room if you want to see. It's scary to me. And Geraldine, we just found out that QuickBooks, who I would say, we try to keep this as simple as we can, and it actually almost was better years ago. They had a QuickBooks program for churches. This is QuickBooks that is really meant for businesses, a for-profit business, not a non-profit or a church. So there's things we really don't need in this system, and it spits stuff out. But they too decided to let us know that we can't use that program anymore, and they're changing, and they are going to like a subscription program, so you can pay monthly and do everything online. But it's going to be an expense that we did not budget for here. It won't be thousands of dollars, but it's going to be a few $100s, I think. So with that, again, I can't say thank you enough to everybody who made it easy. I'm not an accountant, so I'm doing the best I can. I'll try to answer any questions you have. I hope it's fairly simple to look at.
I have a question. There's, on these, two items you mentioned for expenditures for 2023, they're not physically on this sheet. This sheet hasn't been approved yet, so that when the vote is taken, it can be conditioned on those corrections being made to the budget. Then you get it into the budget, and then it's, formal. And the other, question I had, when you were talking about the per capita, which didn't pay for last year, correct? Is that what you were saying? That's
Yeah, per capita is based on, it's like $10 per
correct. But-
member.
So then we owe $350 for last year, and $350 for this year, that would be $700 we budgeted for. So we can make that correction also, and make that
And
$700.
actually, we have some new members, so the membership number is changing a little bit, so.
So that could be amended from 400 budgeted to 800, for example, that would cover the members in both years.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I will make a motion that we approve the budget based on those three corrections, or not corrections, additions to the budget. That'll put your bottom line off even further, but at least you'll have it in there.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Maybe before that, we should ask a question, do we need to have a specific amount? I know you've given a invoice for what you spent on the water softener. We don't have an invoice yet on the QuickBooks. That'll be coming. So is it good enough to kind of,
You can add, the motion was for whatever that corrected amount is, which would be added, that information.
okay.
So it'll still follow through then.
Yeah, so
Yeah, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Pastor's report, is that run now?
I guess so. I'll trade places.
Yeah. You can have it.
And we should thank Jim, he puts in a lot of time.
Yeah.
As we go through this, I can't think of anybody here who doesn't deserve a round of applause. Nevertheless, I'm going to mention a couple more people. For example, Mike Haggerty and Jim have done amazing job of getting our website in order. And it does all kinds of stuff now that, you know, it's kind of like any of the other websites, than really nice ones, where you have to keep clicking to get to where you were intending to go because it doesn't read your mind. But it's very cool looking. They also were able to put a new Facebook page together. The old ones are still there. We're hoping they'll get dropped someday, but it's a difficult process. But those two have done a lot. Then Shayla has done all sorts of work, outside and inside, working on new bedding for our growing group of, what do you call those?
Hospice?
Hospice, yeah, thank
How
you.
can you forget those?
It's gonna be hospice paradise here. And for doing the things around the church and getting ready for our new library section. And then Judy does all of the changing back and forth of the altar cloths. She and Deanna have done a lot of work with some of the altar cloths so that they're even better than they were before, and we have new ones for some seasons and older ones that have been added to, and it's been wonderful. Judy also is like cemetery queen. She has gone through
Wow, yeah.
she's done yeah. Well, she's gone through all these pages of information, which frankly, I mean, I just don't have the patience for that. And she'd say, is it okay if I take this home? Oh, sure, it's fine by me. And she always brings everything back, and she's putting together a new chart and helping out people who want to get on the list for time at the cemetery after their time here is over. And she takes phone calls from people who call and want to know about the cemetery, which is amazing because she follows up on them. And so that kind of thing. Plus,
Chuck and Lawrence are on that committee.
yeah, Lawrence and Chuck are also on that committee, and they've met more than once this year, which is like a new, we're hoping it will be a new normal, although they may be hoping we go back to the old way of never meeting. And then another thing is Judy spearheaded getting new cushions here at the church, wanting to do something especially in remembrance of Steve, who we all still miss. I don't think we'll get over that. But it's nice to know that when the Johnsons arrived, one of them was delighted that we had soft cushions. So if you thought that cushions don't matter, think again.
That's what caused to stay.
So let's go on for a second, and then we'll clap at the end. Dave, we already know, does all kinds of things, including vacuuming up bugs on Sunday morning or Saturday late, so that we're a little more presentable when people come. They don't think they're coming to the place that just, well, it's old, so what can you do? Well, you can vacuum up the bugs is one thing you can do. And he does all kinds of other things. We saw him and his brother Dan and Logan up on the roof, trying to get some of the snow off so that we won't have more ice accumulating. It's impossible not to have ice in Minnesota, so it's an ongoing process. But when I saw them up there and what they were doing, and they weren't wearing helmets, oh my God. But everybody's fine, so that's good. So I think that they have put all of these members here. I'm not officially on the council, so they have done a lot of work, and they get together and meet, which takes a long time. So it gets old now and then. And 3 of the members up here, this is coming up later, are going to, we're going to have to vote to see, the terms are for 2 years. And so every year, there's 2 or 3 members whose terms have expired, and they can be renewed if you all want that, or if there are other people, if they don't want to stand again or be on the council again, then that's their choice, and we'll try to find someone else. But it might also be that someone else is feeling they're ready to do some work like the council, and they will let that be known. Tried to stir that up in some of the bulletins, but just in case. So that's coming up. Fellowship is getting better and better. It's getting harder and harder to get people to leave. I mean, here's the thing, at the very beginning of the year, very close to the beginning, there's a couple, Isaac and Sarah, who used to come here more frequently, but they've moved further away. So they came back to get their baby baptized, and they had a boatload of relatives who came to witness that on a Sunday morning. And it was hours before they all left. And I realized that that was probably the first time this group of people had been together since COVID started. Because when they had their first baby baptized, there was like 4 people here. This time there was like, it seemed like 40, but I don't think it was really that high. So, compared to that, our Sunday fellowship is over in no time. And it's good that we can get together and talk and move around and just be ourselves. We got the Bible study going again. We did 1st and 2nd Corinthians, and this coming season, I'm not sure exactly when we're going to start yet, but we're going to have, we're going to go through the book of Acts. And we don't go through every line and every section, but we go through, in general, the book of Acts and focusing on some particular parts. So that will be good. I think we will probably also have our Lenten suppers again, but we're not going to start. We'll think about that for next week. Last year, with the Lenten suppers, it turned out really nicely because Shayla was able to find some interesting ways of looking at things, and people, neighbors came and were very moved by the opportunity to be with other people and talk about important things in their lives that they don't talk to anybody about mostly. So that was another high point. Mary Carter has been coming in and watering plants during the week. She and Neil them don't usually sit, they sit up on top unless they're, on Zoom, because Neil is immunocompromised, and that's what his doctors have said he needs to do. You know, besides doing the water softener, Hal also was involved in the furnace replacement, which Dave called him from, and he was out, I don't know, in some wilderness area, doing what he loves to do. I don't know if it was hunting or fishing or just enjoying the time in the woods, but from there, he helped us find just the right person to come in and take a look and ultimately change the or the furnace for a lot less than we were, personally, than I was expecting, because I paid a lot more than that for my furnace a few years ago, but, so I know that, and Betty, let us never forget Betty, who comes over here and takes the stuff off the tables that she has so nicely decorated before we all get here on Sunday morning, and she takes it down on Tuesday usually, or Monday. She's here doing all kinds of little things around church, putting together flowers with, she's kind of picking through the flowers that are in the
Fake flowers, there you go.
we got a lot.
Fake flowers.
Fake flowers,
Fake flowers.
the ones that live forever. And if you put a live flower in with them, sometimes you can't tell which is which.
Nice flowers.
So we appreciate everything you've done, all the years you've been here, and we're hoping it'll be many, many years that you're still here. Many, many years that we're all still here. Any questions?
I'd like to just make a comment. Deanna Becker has I made one set of altar cloths, which you can always tell which one the one I made. But Deanna has spent a lot of time making all the new altar cloths. They're all new now. And also I'd like to thank Shelley and Laura, because they help with communion, and they also been helping me, subbing for me and helping me. So, thanks.
Yeah, I knew there were, the altar cloths are just beautiful and everybody gets to see them. Laura and Shelley have been, they are often the first ones here on a Sunday morning, getting things ready in church, whether it's communion or set up for the annual meeting or whatever. And then after an hour or so, they disappear, and it's because they've come into the sanctuary to just be there and be ready, and it's a powerful example of how people can contribute without a lot of fanfare. Anybody else?
Anybody thinks I'm here a lot, almost every time I'm here, Betty is here.
Yes.
And oftentimes Geraldine is here.
Whenever he comes in here, you're here all the time too. So.
Yeah, Jim's saying that Betty is often here when he comes in. When Jim comes in, he often finds that you're already here doing something.
I was just gonna mention that, maybe didn't mention Vicky. She's always there to do all the, kitchen work, and she's
Yeah,
very quiet.
she's very quiet, as is Ann. Charlie's not so quiet.
We're all good.
I think you said it best. There isn't anybody in here that doesn't help make this
Well,
church what it is.
what's nice about this church is everybody's doing stuff because they want to, not because they have to.
Well, and speaking of that,
That's a
Charlie
big
did a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's really,
He puts together things that go in the pews. He put together the bulletin for the Christmas Eve service. He's got pictures that he's,
He spent money on electronics for us, and you know, it's Sam as well helped out in that for early on. So they both. Charlie's very generous with his time, etc.
yeah, and he cares about lots of people that are kind of not in the lamplight, you know, that just kind of, and he pursues those, and he's been talking a lot with the woman who is now the head of the seminary, not the cemetery, but the seminary, and we're hoping that she might come some Sunday and preach for us, so that would be cool.
Well, one other thing too, I have to mention Kevin here. He wasn't here in a couple weeks, and he's already volunteering to fix up the sheetrock touch-ups and anything that needed to get done. So that's pretty nice.
Very nice.
Yeah,
And
I'm correct up here.
says we're not just members; we're all workers here too. But like I said, we're glad to do it, and that's what better situation could you have than people that want to actually like doing what we're doing. And that's why it all works so well too. So I want to thank Kevin for.
do you wanna do a cemetery report?
Well, it's pretty much,
Yeah.
any questions on it?
Yeah, I want to hear about my forever home. Come on.
We now have a little plot for all
Look
around.
at the whole neighborhood over there.
It'll be a party area in the cemetery.
Yeah.
I rush to get there.
Are you gonna get the same thing? Or-
Does anybody have any?
Maybe.
Does anyone have any questions? I don't need the microphone.
No, maybe you mention that how the value is going up, and
Okay.
somebody today, I think even.
Okay, as of today, after today, the cemetery lots will be $500 a piece. Otherwise, up till now, in our meeting in September, we decided to present to the council that we should raise the cost of the cemetery lots, which have been that way since 1880. So we're still below any other cemetery costs in Delano. We also decided with the council permission, with their okay, to limit the cemetery lot would be three burials in that. One body with 2 cremations or whatever, but no more than 3. A standing stone or one that's higher could be around the front and the back, but any other stones, like say if there were 3 people, that would have to be a flat stone because of cutting grass. The council agreed to that at their October meeting. But they did request, we were gonna raise it right away, but they requested that we keep it till today, that the cost of the cemetery lots would be kept at $100, but after today it'll be $500. We have now, since September, we have sold 7 cemetery lots, and there's a cluster of us that'll be all together.
The sale ends today.
So today is Bargain Sunday if you're really looking to go out and buy something fun.
In the fall, Mount Olivet went in there's 2 cemeteries out of the cemetery. And Mount Olivet has got the second one. Well, they went in, and our road goes in like sort of a horseshoe. They went in and they provided gravel and labor and did that. They could have used more, but at least started looking like the Oregon Trail out there. But they paid for it, and our council decided to give them, the cost of the gravel was $300, and the council gave them $150 towards that. But they provided all the labor. Lawrence would agree to continue to mark the graves if there's a burial. He will work with the mortuary and also with, right now it's Joe Kiddock, digs the graves, and he will continue to mark the graves. I am going to start now to redo the map because it's upside down and backwards, that I made. But I will now that I'm hoping that the sales will quiet down now, and then I will redo that whole map and get that back hung up so that it's easier to read and, be working on that. As far as I know, all paperwork is caught
So
up.
we have to give that.
And, those records right now, I have them at my house because of, with the sales going, I didn't wanna come. It's not a bad idea to keep records in 2 places. I'm also making 2 notebooks. Right now I have 2, of every burial that's been out there with a picture. I'm hoping to get obituaries in each one, and so that if people call, I could probably help them locate their family out there, and also have some information for them if it's been maybe an ancestor from 1880. So,
Thank you, Judy.
yeah.
Well, and that made me think of one other person that we especially should call out, which is Lanny and Sean. That's 2 people.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have not lost their fervor for getting more information and more studies of people from around the world, because whether we're a melting pot or a salad, this is a place, this country, where you got all different kinds of people, and they came from all many countries. And so after COVID's kind of a good excuse to drop something that you didn't think was all that great. Well, we didn't drop that, and that was thanks to Sean and Lanny, who said, hey, I bet we could do this again. And so this coming Saturday, if you want to learn something about Puerto Rico, or you just want to come over and eat some good food, come on over. So thank you for doing all that.
I'm just gonna give a little rundown on our 5-year plan. I'll start with why we have a 5-year plan. It's kind of to just give us a guide path on things we want to focus on. And we ask for input from our members. We try and think outside of the box, and that nothing is impossible. And we get it on the plan, and it's broken down into the categories that you've seen on the page. Just 2 things I want to highlight on the plan. The first thing that's of importance is that Margaret, our organist, will be retiring this year. And so we are on the lookout for somebody to replace her. So anybody who has any thoughts or knows somebody who might be interested, if you would get with the council, we're already starting to put our feelers out and talk to somebody, but we could use your help with that. I think the second exciting thing that is happening is that we had a marvelous donation of books from Charlie Leck, and we want to get those out for people to take advantage of. And so one of the new things we're trying to do is create a library, and we've kind of repositioned some furniture out there to make half of it a gathering area and half of it a library. And you can kind of see a drawing out there, how it might be laid out. But that'll be a main focus for us this spring, and if anybody's interested in helping. I think we'll catalog the books and have a list of what we have and arrange them by, what they are for easy finding. And then once we get our shelving and all that up, we would start taking other donations from people. So, and then the very last thing on the list was special events. Believe it or not, we're coming up on 145 years, and one of our members was wondering if we wanted to have a 145-year celebration, or if we should move it to 150-year celebration, which would be in 2029. So if anybody has any thoughts or opinions on that, get with the council. If we're doing 145 years, we got a lot of work to do shortly. But then finally, this is just a kind of a flow chart working thing. If you see something on the list that you are interested in heading up or being a part of, feel free to get with a council member and say, you know what, this really interests me, I wanna help out with that, we would really appreciate it. Any questions? Thanks.
Thanks, Shayla.
Do I announce this election of council members?
Yeah, and ask who's interested in serving.
Well, I guess we have 3 openings for election of council members. And I didn't even know who was up for election until just now, so.
You're one of them.
I asked, nobody really knew. So that tells me, unless someone wants to actually get off the council, me for one, I'm perfectly content. See, my name, I didn't know I was even up for re-election. I never considered me being presidential material, but I always figured I'll do the best job I can. But I'm perfectly willing to stay here if everybody else agrees with it, but since I'm always willing to step aside if someone wants to do what I do, which is stand up here and kind of look smart. But, I don't know,
I would be willing to give up my seat. I've been like 3 terms now or so. I mean, I totally enjoy the job, but I totally think it's a great experience for
And who's the third one?
somebody else.
Jim and Shayla, Dave.
I am willing to continue being the treasurer, not because I'm so accomplished at it, but because I'm willing to try, and I don't know if anybody else wants a job. Hal had it for many years, and
Well, I for one would be very happy to see you all continue.
Well,
You're doing a wonderful
the-
job.
And keep in mind that when Dave says, you know, you can take my spot if you want, it doesn't mean you're gonna have to be the president. When we're done with this election, then we go back and we decide who's gonna do what. That's how.
The board decides who the officers will be. Today,
We're
we
just trying to-
decide who we will elect to be on board. So it's up to the board to elect officers.
Right.
And it's up to us to elect people who would like to be on the board. So if you wanna stay on the board, you're just throwing your hat in the ring with anybody else.
Right.
And then we vote for who the member will be, the members of the council. And then at your first meeting, the council, or you
Yeah.
do it today,
Yeah, whatever.
you decide who is the officer. That's how it's done.
One thing I have to emphasize too is, even if you aren't an official council member, we always encourage anybody to sit in on these meetings, and really the only difference is, because your input is just as valuable as everybody else's, is
Yeah.
officially, you can't count as a vote. But as far as donating your expertise to the whole conversation of things, we encourage people to sit right with us. So, the next thing is, how do you wanna go about this?
Well, I think Laura Johnson might be willing to,
I only have interest if somebody is interested in leaving their position.
well, Shayla has just reminded me that she would really like to get off the council. She has a lot of other things going on, with her work, and if we can't force her to stay.
It's time for a change. Yeah, it's time for a change.
Well-
So if someone, would make a motion,
Is there someone else that's interested?
Yeah, does anybody else wanna be it?
I'm curious here, who in here now has been on the council before?
Who hasn't been?
Who has? Who has?
Lauren.
Lauren, Shelley,
Yeah.
Hal? Anybody else? Okay, I'm just curious because we haven't been to in the church as many years as Dave, so.
I don't even know how many years I've been on council, I kinda lost
And is
track.
there anybody else besides Laura that is interested in?
Not this year.
I will say, as much as I'm willing to continue, there will be a point here where I don't think I will want to. And I think the treasurer spot is, maybe something a lot of people don't want to do. I don't know. We try to make it as easy as possible, so a person doesn't, I'm not an accountant. I ran a business of my own for 20 years, so I just used whatever bookkeeping I learned from my own business to try to adapt to this, but
But
I'm getting old too, so.
Jim, the board elects who will be treasurer, so
That's
if
true,
you're off
yeah.
the council, somebody else will be elected, whoever is elected by the congregation to be on the board. All of you will then elect officers. So, the
Yeah.
secretary, the president, so you guys decide who the officers are. If you leave, that doesn't mean a replacement is going to have your spot. That just means you're off the council.
I just would like to ask, how do we elect Laura?
Well, somebody has to make a motion.
Yeah,
I
we
make a motion.
nominate three
We gotta nominate 3 people to be
Or
on the board,
more.
so,
Yeah, we need 3 nominees.
and we can have more nominees, but
Yeah.
3 are gonna win the board seat, so
Yeah,
whatever,
we have
the
3
here or out
seats.
there, so.
I would love it if I could, suggest that Laura be one of those candidates.
Okay.
Yeah, I nominate David and Jim also to be, voted on as members for a 2-year term.
Okay,
On
so
the board.
do we only need a nomination, we don't need a
We
second?
need a second.
Is there a second?
Nominees.
I'll second.
Okay, so, is there anybody else?
Anybody else wanna be on the board?
I see a lot of heads shaking the wrong way.
Come on, Shelley.
There's been a second, all in favor? It's carried.
So Laura will be a new council member.
You're in now.
Yeah.
Shayla,
Gotta wait 2
thank
years
you
to
for
get off.
the years you put in with us.
Well, if you last as many years as I have and you haven't been tarred and feathered and sent packing, you're doing something right, so.
Well, we
It
gotta
would be
thank
this, my dear.
our outgoing member.
Yeah.
Yes,
Because she's done a great
Really?
job.
Thank you, Shayla.
Yeah, she's done a great job.
Well, I guess that's it on that part of it. Are we into authorizing the church council to designate 2 delegates?
Yeah, that's just because we don't know who's gonna go to the conference meeting.
I'll make that motion that the council has the authority to designate 2 delegates to go to the conference.
Is there a second? All in favor? The only way it can be any better, Hal, is if you decide to be one of the delegates.
Your letters.
All right, well, I guess that's kind of the end of the meeting here, unless anybody has any questions or comments, or, well, my stomach's starting to growl, so I guess it's the end of it here.
Well, I make a motion to adjourn then.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's eat.
I'm gonna do the Lord's Prayer. Here.
Oh, yeah.
Do that.
Okay, let's stand up, we'll say the Lord's Prayer together, and then we'll go in. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done,